Shut up and sit down.
What an incredible journey we've taken related to restructuring vision. Related to vision, it's not enough to see it, set it, and forget it. It must be examined and re-examined often to make sure that the course doesn't need correction. We've examined the following case studies in an attempt to learn from the good, the bad, and the ugly that these businesses demonstrate restructured vision. We started with Airbnb, YouTube, Instagram, Starbucks, Netflix, even Blockbuster. We learned that business needs to be examined and re-examined related to vision often. We've been looking at what author Michael Hyatt discusses in his book, The Vision-Driven Leader, and we've really drilled down on something that he describes as the vision arc. He says that there are 7 stages of a business. Vision can be reinvented, restructured, retooled at any point in that arc. Again, Hyatt insists there are 7 stages: startup, growth, transitions, maturity, legacy, zombie, and death. We've drilled down in the first couple of those and really enjoyed looking at how to navigate vision in those stages. Today, step number 4, maturity. I am so inspired by great vision. What does it take to inspire you? Once upon a time, there was a little girl by the name of Malala Yousafzai. She was from Swan Valley, Pakistan. Her village had no schools, so her father founded a small private school in her village. There was a time where boys were allowed to attend school, but girls were not. Now, during the Bush years, right about the time Malala turned 11, the Taliban seized control of the Swan Valley. The Taliban banned music, television, and school for girls. In fact, they blew up the schools, more than 100 of them. They hung the beheaded bodies of policemen who stood in their way in the town square. They intended to intimidate, and it worked. That is, it worked on most everyone except on a little 11-year-old girl by the name of Malala. Almost immediately, she contacted Western journalists with her horror stories of living with the Taliban. The stories infuriated the leaders of the Taliban, and they were determined to find the source, the ones leaking information to the West. Malala used her vision to motivate a country. Eventually, her words captivated the hearts of the world. With every published story, the impression grew even more hostile. The behavior of the Taliban was so immoral, so indefensible, but that didn't prevent it from prevailing. What started as a goal, enabling every girl to attend school, quickly became an all-out attack, and she courageously defied these terrorists at great personal risk if she were to be caught. Speaking against the Taliban is an automatic death sentence, which she continued to defy. Malala presented at a local press club a speech entitled, "How Dare the Taliban Take Away My Basic Right to Education?" Now, that's going to earn you a standing ovation in this country, but a coffin in hers. Later that year, when the Pakistani government awarded Malala the National Peace Prize, she was asked, "What would you say to the men who oppress you for your desire for education?" She said, "I would tell them that what they're trying to do is wrong, that education is a basic human right." You remember the story. It was published in Time magazine. 10 months later, acting upon orders from a notorious cleric, a masked gunman boarded her school van and demanded, "Which one of you is Malala? Speak up or I'll kill all of you. She's propagating against the soldiers of Allah, the Taliban. She must be killed." She spoke up. The militant shot her, attempting to kill her. She was hit twice in the head and in the neck. And it was a shot heard round the world. Incredibly, Malala survived. She recovered, and she had a decision to make. I could live my life, or I can make the most of this new life, this second chance I've been given. And she further stated, I determined to continue my fight so that every girl in Pakistan could go to school. She redoubled her efforts, rethinking vision. For a little context to our lesson, she rejected the status quo. She was told to get quiet, speak less, become less vocal. No. Now, at 12 years old, she pushed harder than ever. Later that year, she became the youngest recipient to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I know I'm diverting a little bit from our lesson, but I am because I want to share with you an inspiration, her vision to inspire the world. I'm quoting from her memoirs. Angelina Jolie donated $200,000 to underwrite rebuilding the school in Malalah's hometown. In 2016, the Malalah Fund got the attention of Bill and Melinda Gates, who put $4 million toward the effort. In 2018, Apple announced they were partnering with the Malalah Foundation to educate more than 100,000 girls around the world by providing each with a computer, the technology, and the curriculum assistance to make it happen. I could go on and on. Michael Hyatt says it best in his book, The Vision-Driven Leader. It's not enough to have a vision, and it's not enough for that vision to be clear and consistent. For a vision to be effective, it must be powerful enough to shake off complacency and replace it with the motivation to take action. In other words, it must be effectively and passionately communicated. You want the buy-in from your team? Communicate your vision with passion. Passion is the answer. A 12-year-old little girl withstands a hateful gunman, took bullet holes in her precious body, barely surviving the attempt on her life, and rather than going into hiding, she comes out swinging. What an inspiration! What a vision! What a kid! I have time for one more quick case study to prove how great vision can create wild inspiration in business. And who can we go to but Amazon? Number one business in America as voted by the American Customer Satisfaction Index each year, year after year, Amazon. Now, they may be maturing as a company, but they are by no means mature related to new ideas, recreating vision, and providing inspiration. In the last 5 years alone, instead of coasting into the legacy status that we'll look at in a minute, they still produce like a rock star. From Alexa-enabled home devices to Amazon Go, retail stores where no checkout is even required. Prime Wardrobe, that's a new one. Try before you buy. To Prime Video, catalog of original programming and streaming video. Amazon is off the hook. Even if they don't know that people want it, customers tell Amazon that they want something better than what's out there, and Amazon finds it or invents it for them. Now, you can get content with legacy status, or you can revisit vision and push for the next great thing. Founder and CEO Jeff Bezos said, no customer ever asked Amazon to create a Prime membership program, but it sure turns out that they wanted it. Business analyst Steve Detting notes, a century ago, the life expectancy of a firm in the Fortune 500 was about 75 years. Now it's less than 15 years and declining even further. Businesses that don't keep it fresh, challenging, reinventing, and rejuvenating are headed to the zombie stage. Let me share one personal illustration with you and I'll close. As I've shared in previous episodes, I pastored for years in non-denominational type churches back in the 80s, 90s. I loved it, didn't love me. The pressure of pastoring can destroy a marriage, and I take full responsibility. I became married to the church and I blew it, okay? But the high that was created through helping people, I gotta tell you, it's what I was all about. But I learned so much in those early days out of seminary about church growth. So I'll tell you that it does resemble business growth so much that I have to share this with you. Again, I was the senior pastor of senior churches over a 3-year period. My first church in Philly, best example of how I know that this works. It worked identically in all the other churches. Fresh out of college, about 35 people at Grace Church. They called me to become their pastor. The entire church is made up of 2 families, but we fell in love. Honeymoon was great. It took us only about 3 months to hit 100 in attendance. We stayed there for about 9 months. I called a meeting of my deacons and I said, guys, what do you think we need to do to hit the next target? One of those whiteboard meetings before whiteboards existed. We threw everything on the wall. Finally, we decided to hire a full-time youth pastor to attract younger families. In 3 months, our attendance jumped another 250 people. Again, we plateaued in 9 months, so I'm 2 years into a ministry. We've grown to about 350 people and stalled. I call another meeting. We decided to add another 2 morning services and a full-time worship pastor. And within 3 months, we jump another 350 people. We're out of room, ready for the next growth stage. And we ask, what do we do now? After 3.5 years of this, looks like we're starting to stagnate. So it's time to build a bigger building. We're out of parking spaces. We're out of seats and we're out of patience. So again, we plateaued. About 850 people, attendees, every week in 3 morning services, 1 evening service every Sunday. I call another meeting. But this meeting doesn't go so well. That church within a church, that is most of those original 35, the glue from those first 3.5 years, they've become pretty unhappy about our church growth. They liked the us four no more mantra. And they believed it was time for me to go. So I didn't want the fight. And I simply took a different ministry. I needed to move back to the Michigan area because my father was ill, so I took another ministry about the size of the ministry that I was actually leaving. We saw that ministry grow to a large number, and eventually we plateaued and went through a similar growth cycle. And the simple truth is, I found that every growth cycle was preceded by a time of recasting vision. We had to restructure, we had to retool, we had to rethink, and I can look back at every growth plateau, and I'm certain that if we had not reconsidered vision, we would have died. I would have died, and the original 35 probably would have liked that. But I can't simply survive a plateau. Give me growth, give me transition, give me maturity, give me legacy, but don't give me a life without goals. Don't force me to stay in a bad situation. Don't make me function without vision. Now, I don't want to take too much liberty with you in sharing that personal pastoral illustration, but I see so many parallels, I had to share that with you. I have no joy in sharing this with you, but that first church in Philadelphia, it's still standing. They average about 35 people each Sunday. Sweet people. But growth, vision is dead. Let's not let that happen to your business. I'll say more about this in our last episode. I'll see you in the next, team. Thank you so much for your great attention.